Just a couple of months ago, back in June, Zohran Mamdani defeated Andrew Cuomo in a primary contest to secure the Democratic nomination for mayor. Mamdani did so with the help of a plurality of Asian voters, college graduates, and renters. He also had the backing of a large proportion of Hispanic voters. Mamdani's victory challenges the notion that Latino voters were more likely to support former Governor Andrew Cuomo, and that the Latino electorate is trending more conservative after President Trump made some inroads in that community last year. As it stands now, a majority of Latino voters seem to be supporting Mamdani, but will those votes remain the same by the time we count the votes a week from tonight? Joining me now to talk about that and much more is Melissa Mark-Viverito. She is president of the Hamilton Campaign Network and a former city council speaker. Welcome back to the program. Good to see you.
Great to see you, Errol. Thank you.
So I'm referring to a poll that has Zohran Mamdani with actually 48% support among Latino voters in New York, compared with 24% for Andrew Cuomo and about 14% for Curtis Sliwa. What do you think accounts for those numbers?
Look, it's all about the messaging. It's all about the platform. It is about what the policy ideas are, the vision, and how that's being relayed and communicated to the voters. And that's resonating. The poll indicates that clearly the issues that Zohran has highlighted as his platform are ones that resonate, right? In this poll of Hispanic Federation that you talked about, housing is number one. Safety is up there as well. So those issues that really have resonated are ones that he's been outlining in his platform. So I think that really is an example of being very focused and really being in tune with what the challenges and the needs are, and not necessarily responding to what your donors may be wanting you to highlight.
And I noticed that Representatives Nydia Velázquez and Adriano Espaillat are supporting Mamdani. Does that have an effect on clubs, on officials, the general public? What does that do for him?
There's some that plays to some effect, right? You have high profile, very visible leaders in both Adriano's chair of the Hispanic caucus in Congress, Nydia, who's a longstanding stalwart in our community. That comes with some. So seeing that leadership also endorsed and supported, I think it does play into the mindset and into the psyche also of voters. And maybe it doesn't have an overwhelming, but it does bear weight. And I think that's important to note. So I know that here, for instance, in East Harlem, in El Barrio, where I have been knocking on doors and I've been talking to voters, that is, in terms of what the poll is highlighting, it is what I'm also seeing when I'm talking to my neighbors. And it's very exciting. I mean, the level of enthusiasm and energy in terms of people's involvement in voting for Zohran is really really exciting.
Yeah, in fact, we're going to put up a map of some of the turnout numbers that we've seen so far, early voting up in the Bronx. And we know these are early numbers. It's pretty, but it's pretty low. These are 5 assembly districts that in neighborhoods that strongly went for Cuomo in the primary. The numbers seem to be pretty low, though, I guess, in these first 3 days. Is that meaningful at this point, or is it too early to say?
No, I mean, if you look at the turnout, when you talk and reflect on 4 years ago, every area of this city has seen an exponential growth in the turnout. Of course, we have lower voter participation in some areas, and that's unfortunate, right? But I think what is being demonstrated is the level of energy and enthusiasm that is moving people to vote at rates that we did not see 4 years ago. So that, to me, is really indicative of the success of the messaging of this campaign. I'm going to assume and feel very comfortable, I believe, that a lot of that energy and growth in vote that we're seeing is in response and positive response to Mamdani's campaign and his message. He has been going to every corner of the city, meeting with stakeholders, talking to anybody who's willing to sit with him. I am very excited, and it resonates with me now as a constituent and as a resident here in New York City and as a voter who also has progressive policies. I want to see him succeed. I believe his agenda is one that we can work collectively. He is building that spirit of collaboration within the city of New York, that we have to look out for each other, that we have to reevaluate our priorities, and that now with the threat of Trump, that we have to even close the ranks and work all the more closely together in the best interest of New York City and in the best interest of the majority of this city, which is working class people. So that to me is exciting. And so we have a lot of work ahead. And I say we because as a city, we're collective. We all have a lot of work to do in these next years.
Well, yeah, and I'm really struck by the fact that 49% of Latino voters, 41% of black voters seem to be behind Mamdani, and roughly the same level of support among white liberals. It looks like sort of a governing coalition. Frankly, it reminds me of the David Dinkins coalition from the 80s, coming together to try and lead the city. What would be your advice, because you have walked this path yourself? Some of my viewers may not realize you were a labor organizer before you got elected. As he goes from, as he tries to go from being a messenger to being a manager, what advice would you give to Zohran Mamdani?
Look, I think it's one that's just probably one he's heard many times, right? About surrounding yourself with the right people, the people that are really focused and laser focused on that agenda, people who are experienced and know how to navigate these waters, but that also outside of the box thinkers, right? We don't want a situation where we're kind of resorting to the same old tactics and strategies. We are dealing with a scenario in this country where everything is brand new. We cannot even be thinking of utilizing existing playbooks. We have to be thinking extremely creatively outside of the box, and we have to restructure our priorities. I completely agree with that. Our budgets reflect the priorities of this city. The vision that Zohran has laid out is one that is in the best interest of this city, and that we all have an interest in helping him succeed. I know there are those who probably don't want him to succeed, but I am committed, and others are committed to making his agenda successful in this city. So it is about surrounding yourself with those people that are deeply committed, and finding partners along the way that are going to be that laser focused as well. We have, when he comes into office, you have already a state budget that has to be passed. You have a city budget process that is beginning. There is a lot of hard work ahead. And so I know that he is going to give his all to make it successful.
Okay. In our last minute, you're one of the few people who has had a successful race to become city council speaker. It's not the general public that weighs in. It's the other 50 members of the city council. That race is already underway. I'm sure you're better connected to the gossip than I am. What should a future speaker be doing at this stage of the game?
Look, this race has been going on for years. I know that in my case, when I jumped in, I was we were in a different place, right? By this time, we were pretty much done with the campaign, to be honest. We had secured pretty much the votes. So at this point, you want someone who's going to be at least on the side of the admin, right? You do want someone who is going to be an ally and as reflective, right, of the needs of New Yorkers. And so I think this race is well on its way. I know I keep hearing maybe 2 or 3 or 4 names out there, but I will say, in terms of the progressives, when I ran, there was pretty much closing ranks, right? There is several candidates who fall into that line. I think there has to be a consolidation, and that has happened pretty quickly.
Okay, we will be watching. Thanks so much for spending some time with us, Melissa Mark-Viverito.
Thank you.